Alright, so today's project is going to be doing some maintenance on my dragon fruit, trimming them back, and then ultimately kind of getting in here and repairing these trellises that are being basically weighted down. I'm hoping that I can just screw these screws in tighter, but it might be more complicated than that on some of them. So here's what this one looks like. I'm going to be taking a lot of these cuttings or branches off and making new cuttings, and in a couple cases it seems like the plants are actually dying, so I might remove them. Like this one is pretty sick, and the base here is not looking too hot. Once I get in there, I'll kind of determine what I want to do with that one, if I want to let it go or try and salvage it. Some of these are fruiting and flowering, so I'm probably not going to be too aggressive with those ones. And then on this one here, might be the most challenging one. I think they're all kind of different, but this one has the biggest, beefiest branches to remove and the most tipping of the trellis here with all this weight on it. So we'll see once I start getting in here and taking these pieces out what needs to be done with it. So the general strategy, if you will, that I'm going to be following is each main branch I'm going to keep like 2 or 3 offshoot branches, just so there's plenty of space for fruiting, and anything after that I'm going to remove, just because it's too much energy going to those other branches, and it's a little hard to manage at that point. And then down here, I'm going to be removing these lower branches because I want everything to be up here. So here's the progress on this first one. Got a big old pile here. I'm going to save some of the biggest ones for sure. And one thing I neglected to mention is that there's 4 different varieties here. So I'm really trying to manage it in such a way that it's easy to understand where everything is going. And making progress. There's much less weight on the left side, and I can kind of straighten it out at this point. There's a couple that I might remove, but I'm thinking I'll leave them for now. This big one that's jutting up the top, there's a few too many branches on that one, I think. But I really like the way this one looks, so I want to leave it for now. I might remove it as a really solid cutting later. And then gotta move on to this guy. If it weren't for the fact that each of these has 4 different varieties in it, I would probably just let this do its thing and just be a crazy spaghetti monster. But I want to manage the varieties and kind of understand what's going on, where everything's going. So I'm trying to groom it. Alright, here's the progress on the second pot. Giving it the same treatment. Each one has about 2 or 3 branches and a reasonable amount of offshoots from each of them. Found a fruit in there, and then there's another one coming on right there that's going to be ready soon. Here's the pile as it stands. Sorry, getting attacked by mosquitoes. I ended up going on a little side quest to clear out some grapes to get in there, and I had to go get the step ladder to get into the top of it. But the whole business looks a lot better now. This one that well, it's still very sick. It might not make it long term, but I'm gonna leave it for now. And it does have a flower. I did remove a few small branches, and I might want to remove this one entirely because it looks so bad in this area. But I think I'm just gonna sit on it for a little while. What I really need is to probably grow out a good cutting from it and then kind of start this one over. I've also been considering taking out the ones that are the more spiny varieties, just because it's kind of a nuisance and they scratch you all the time. I've got this one that's super spiny, and this one over here that's extra spiny. So that's the progress. All right, I'm on the third trellis now. I've got a top-down view just to make this easier. I didn't want to do this whole video and not show a little more in-depth how I'm making my selections on what to remove here. So let me do a few examples about how I'm selecting out some of these. So I mentioned that I have 4 different varieties in each pot, and just to keep it a little more organized, I'm trying to have them splay over the direction that they're coming up. So let's use this one as an example here. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. And it might be okay if it wasn't sharing this space. But I also want to keep in mind that it's going to be using a lot of energy for each of these branches. So if I want to try and maximize nutrients to like potential fruit and stuff, then I want to kind of minimize, or sorry, just keep it to, let's say, 3. So I'm probably going to take out this one just because it's one, it's going over this direction into some of the other varieties, and 2, it's lower on the plant. And what I've noticed with some of the other ones, especially this one over here that had the big muscly branches, is that the more branches that I leave lower, I want to avoid having these like secret branches down here. Like, let's say, this is probably how this one started, is it grew out at the back and then grew up along here. I didn't really know it until it was pretty big. So I'm trying to minimize that sort of stuff. I think I'm going to take out this one and probably this one because it's so close to this other one. I'll give these a little bit of breathing room. So I will keep this one, and this one. And then after I've selected those out, I'll take a look at the remaining branches and see how many other branches they have on them. So this one, for instance, I'm keeping. It has 1, 2, 3. So that's fine. I probably did some pruning on this one maybe some months ago. I don't remember. So that's an example of one that's not going to need any additional pruning. So I'll show you one more and then kind of go over a plan together. This one is kind of a wild card because it grew to be kind of flat. can see it's very flat. And then up here, kind of has more flatness to it. And then it kind of loops over the front like that. So this one actually has, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. So I'm definitely going to want to bring that down a bit. The question is, which ones do I want to keep? I'll probably get rid of this one because it's crossing over like that. It's a little annoying because this weight is going to be kind of pinching down on this other branch. Although I could, let's see. No, I'll take off this top one. I was going to say maybe I want to just take off the bottom one, but I think the bottom one is a little further along. And then maybe I'll take off this one because it's kind of funky. Yeah, so I'll select out 1 and 2 and keep these other 3. Alright, we're finishing up on this one. Here's what it looks like. Got a lot more space to start all over again and branch out. And it's going to be sending more of that energy to these other branches. I had to go on another side quest to trim up the birds of paradise to kind of get around the back. There's more to be done. I only trimmed off the tops of those, or tips of those fronds, but managed to make a huge pile out of it. Bigger than my other pile. Yeah, the only thing left to do is kind of try and repair these sagging trellises. Hopefully, I mean, in a perfect world, it's just going to be tightening the screws, but I'm sure it's going to be more than that. Alright, and lastly, I was able to repair the trellises. Just had to do some more reinforcing with a little extra screws. And they're both more or less level now. Took some finagling to kind of get in there behind all this stuff because I've got such a full garden now, but they're reinforced and hopefully they can bear a little more weight when it comes on again, because it will. So yeah, that's what I got. I'll see you guys in the next one.